normally I get myself into a situation where there is no option, but that is my livelihood now, or I've put so much investment in that then I'm like, right, I'm going to have to make this work. You just have to keep adding detail to your dream, and it sort of solidifies to the point where one day you're like, actually, should we just do it?
You know what I like about you, I think? I really like the fact that any sort of situation you've faced so far, you have just looked at it and went on Google or like you tried to approach it and you were like, yeah, I can do it. And then you like find a solution and you try it.
Making yourself accountable to someone, even if they're not involved, just telling someone. So I find it's really a really powerful thing just to tell someone that you're going to do something.
Ruth, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for doing this. And let me just start by saying, this episode is quite different for me.
Okay.
And as I said to you a couple of minutes ago, normally I prepare a lot for when a guest comes on. I try to find out what they've done in the past, career-wise, normally, and I try to prepare questions for them. And the reason for it is because the idea of the podcast is that anyone, regardless of who they are or what they're doing, can provide value to others through their life experiences. But for this, I didn't want to prepare that too much.
You're winging it.
I'm winging it.
We're winging it.
Exactly. I want this to be a natural conversation.
Yep.
And I don't know anything about you because I want to get to know you personally now.
Okay.
So Ruth, again, thank you for doing this.
You're very welcome.
Let me just start by asking, how has your day been so far?
My day's been good, actually. It's been quite exciting. So it starts much the same as every other day. So I've got 3 kids and a dog, so I have to get them all off to school, take the dog for a walk. As I said earlier, my husband has just left his job, so we're now both focusing from home on running our own business together. So dog walks tend to be a lot of like, right, business planning, what are we doing? And then we had a photographer who came in because we're going to be doing a photo shoot for the company that, so I've got a company called Slug Rings that I bought from my neighbour about 6 years ago. So I started out life, I'm an engineer, so I studied engineering at university. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I worked for a consultancy in Cambridge for quite a long time. That's where I met my husband. Then one day we went out for dinner and decided we didn't want to live in Cambridge, it's too flat. So I think I was heavily pregnant, and we decided, right, we're going to move. We got a map out, we chose places in the country that we thought looked nice, and we were like, right, we chose Bath because it's close enough to the sea, like the West Coast sea that isn't brown, and good for mountains and lots of adventures. So we moved here, and I had, I think Elsa was 1 when we moved here, and I was pregnant with my second daughter Lyra. So I didn't have a job for a while, and I was finding life is a bit difficult when you're used to being busy and you haven't got a job. So when my neighbour, he passed away, he died paragliding, age 72, in a spectacular end. And while I was chatting to his widow, we came up with the idea that I could buy the company off them. And so that is, so today it was a photo shoot for products that we sell with Slug Rings. And that was my day. And then I've recently taken on as chairperson of the PTA at the local school. So I had to go to the bank and set up bank accounts for my new little PTA team, and then run a cake sale at the school and sell old uniform, come home, put dinner on, and then cycle here as fast as I could. That's been my day. Oh, and emails and business things in between.
That is crazy.
That is busy life.
Yeah.
That's it every day.
Can I just say, I feel
tired listening.
I feel worse now. I feel so bad now because I'll be honest with you. I tried to get a hold of you. Yeah. And I was seeing so many messages like, why? Like what? Why is she not answering? What could be the reason why someone doesn't answer after something? Now I understand.
Yeah, I have one business. We're just setting up another one. The kids, the dog, the PTA, which I knew was going to be a big job, but I think because it's right at the start of it, actually that is probably my main job. The last few weeks just feels like, ugh.
The PTA.
The PTA. It's PTFA, Parents, Teachers and Friends Association. So I don't know if you know what one of these are.
So I grew up in Romania.
Yeah.
And what I think they are is it's a meeting between parents and the teachers.
No.
Talk about no.
No, nothing like that. So, most schools, budgets are really tight for schools now. They get a certain amount per child, but that tends to cover paying teachers' salaries. But they end up, they actually have, I think the head teacher said last week, they have £7,000 per year to cover everything on the upkeep of the school. So maintenance of the building, of the, anything new they want for the classrooms or the playgrounds or anything. Like they're big places, schools, they've got a lot of buildings and a lot of ground. So any gardening, anything has to come out of that budget. And that does not go very far. So PTAs or PTFAs are parents normally who fundraise for the school. So the school that I have taken over as head of the PTA for made nearly £21,000 last year. And that paid for a new library for the primary school and a lot of equipment and a new website. So they're pretty important for schools because they provide, they mean that every child can go on school trips because they subsidise trips for children who can't afford them, and they cover big things like theatre trips, they pay for forest school, they pay for loads of the fun stuff really. So, but it's quite a big undertaking for parents to try and fit these things in. So.
Why did you think you would be perfect for the role? Or why did you, with everything that's going on, like you're running a business, you're about to set up another one,
Yeah.
your husband has quit his job,
Yep.
and you're deciding, actually, I could take on another
No,
job.
I did not decide, actually, I'd take it on. I think there was so I've been the treasurer and in charge of the finances for the last 2 years. And the current chair, her daughter is about to leave the school and it's time for her to leave. She's done it for 3 years and she's done a fabulous job, but it's a big undertaking. And no one else was standing up. And it's one of those things that it needs doing. So a little bit like the Nappy Library. These are things that you're like, well, this is a service that it can't disappear. It's essential for the children in that school. And it's not just about the money that they raise, they provide a community. So today we had a cake sale and we sold secondhand uniform, which is really important for environmental reasons and also for families that maybe don't have the money to spend. Just having that circular economy with the clothes is an essential part, but someone has to take in donations, launder them, sort them, sell them and manage that. And it just felt like something that had to be done. And as I waited and waited, and I was like, no one else is taking it on. So there you go. That's and they do say ask a busy person if you want something done. But I am really slow at getting back to WhatsApps because sometimes I'm just like, oh, I've got 50 million. And I kept getting yours and I was like, oh God, I must reply. But so sorry.
That's absolutely fine. I mean, listen, I'm helping some other people run a fencing club here in Bath,
Yeah.
and we're about to have a general election, and we're looking for more people to join. So if you're looking for another role, we actually need a chairwoman. So.
Yeah, no, you're okay.
No?
I think my daughter's friend is in the fencing. She might do fencing with you.
But sword.
Yeah, possibly. It's Heidi. She'll be 13. She does lots of competitions fencing.
It doesn't ring a bell because obviously she would be a junior, but yeah.
We've just taken up archery. So my 13-year-old and I have just taken up archery.
Both of you?
Yep.
Okay.
So she wanted to do it for her Duke of Edinburgh, and I think she'd read.
Sorry, for her what?
Duke of Edinburgh. Do you not know what this is?
I've heard about them all over the
So many
place.
things.
Yeah.
So Duke of Edinburgh is an award system that they set up for teenagers. So I think you have to be 13 to do the Bronze Award, and it involves 3 months of volunteering, 3 months of a skill, and 6 months of a physical activity that you have to log an hour a week for these things. And then at the end of it, you go off on an expedition, and it's to try and develop their independence and to give something back to society and to get into the habit of learning new things or taking on things like a podcast. It's trying something new.
Is this something organised by the government or by the
I don't know actually.
by the royal family?
It was the Duke of Edinburgh was the one who set up the initiative. So I think it's probably a charity that runs it. But they're quite often run through the school. So Elsa, my eldest, is doing it through the school this year. But she'd been reading Hunger Games or something and thought, oh, I quite fancy trying archery. And when your children get older, if they're interested in doing anything with you, you're like, yep, I'll do that. That sounds lovely. Anything to keep it's nice to have a connection. So we did a starter archery course together in the start of the summer. And we haven't been able to get there very often because life is busy and she's been ill and things. But that is our aim. So yeah, but they're always looking for people, and I'm like, don't volunteer, not yet. So trying to, but yeah, that is how. So I was obviously, your name was given by Bobby, and I met Bobby. So shortly before I bought Slug Rings, the business that I'm running now, I had a baby at home and a lot of spare time on my hands, and I use reusable nappies, and I was trying to find information on them online, and I was looking see if there was a library to try different ones, because the ones that I had were not working that well, and I came across a dormant Nappy Library, which is the bath cloth Nappy Library, and I was like, oh no, this is awful, people need this service. And and that's how I met Bobby early on. She was one of the first clients that I kind of got in contact with.
Yeah, because she's got 2 young kids.
Yeah, she does. So Eleanor was a baby at the same time as my Hamish is my youngest one. And so together we've been running Bathcloth Nappy Library, and we did, which is, it's a sort of a service that we offer for advice on how to get started with cloth nappies, and we will loan kits out. And when they're very small, babies grow quite fast, so you don't want to spend a lot of money on tiny newborn nappies because they're going to grow out of them. So we do, Bobby used to manage the newborn kits, and she'd lend them out, and we would educate people about how to wash them and how to use them and how to stop them leaking and how best to get on board with them. And then I would take them on from, once they outgrew the newborn ones, I would then take them on and help them choose sort of which ones were going to be best to take them through to potty training and beyond. So that was our little project.
That's interesting. So with nappies, you're saying obviously kids grow up.
Mm-hmm.
When they grow up, they can't fit in the old clothes, for example. So,
Yep.
But I would imagine with nappies, you use them once and then you throw them away.
Ah, so that is disposable nappies, but
Yeah.
these are reusable nappies. So they're made out of cotton or bamboo or hemp, and you would just wash them. So they're just a washable nappy. So you have like a nappy bin, but instead of it going out to the waste, it just goes in the washing machine. And you use them again and again. And you can use them with multiple children. So they're quite expensive when you first buy them. It's a couple of £100 normally outlay, unless you get second hand, which is a good second hand market. But then that will last you throughout the whole time your child is in nappies. So they're cheaper, they're environmentally friendly, they're generally better on skin for your baby, but it is more work. So and it's difficult to find. It's not sort of a one fits all system.
And that's why when
which
they
is
grow
why-
up, then you
Yeah.
need, okay.
Which is why you need a nappy library to help you kind of work out which ones. But that has sort of fallen at the wayside a lot since COVID, because we used to go to a lot of baby groups and teach people one-to-one and do demonstrations, and they'd bring their nappy and we'd sort of troubleshoot, and then we'd show them fit it on their baby and things. And
On the
after
baby or on a
COVID,
fake baby?
on their baby. So we would show them how to fit the nappy correctly onto their baby and check that they were fitting it right, and have a cuddle, and then they'd go off, and they could come back the next week if they were still having issues, and we'd like, oh right, let's try a different nappy, let's try a different liner. So that was a service we offered, but when COVID came along and everything was distanced, it just sort of fell apart a little bit, and I'd just bought Slug Rings, which was ramping up. So
Looking at the nappy thing, so you were looking at nappies online and you saw the library. Back then, were you, because you said there was a period of time where you didn't have a job and you liked being busy.
yeah.
So was that the period of time?
Yeah. So I'd had 2 children, then we'd moved to Bath, and then we renovated a house. So that took me about 2 years. So I project managed all the builders and all the materials coming in, and so project managed the build, and we did quite a lot of it ourselves. So there was an awful lot of you know, dismantling and decorating and painting and wallpapering and building things. And then that had just finished. Then we set up an Airbnb. So we rented out 2 of our bedrooms, which we set up as an Airbnb. And I did that for about a year. And then I had a baby. And then I was like, well, I don't want an Airbnb because we need that room for the baby. And it's quite difficult to manage when you've been up all night trying to be smiley and make breakfast for people. So I need something else to keep me busy now. So that was when the Nappy Library, I think in the middle of the night, I came across it and went, oh, I can do that. So I took that from a lady she had a box of sort of secondhand nappies and I think £30 or something in the library account. And we set it up and grew it to the point where we had, I think we got grant funding we applied for, and we had about £4,500, which we spent on really good nappy kits with a range of sort of 20 different nappies. We created, we had a graphic designer who did a load of work. We had leaflets, we've got booklets which teach you about each of the different nappy types. Bobby had, I think, 15 different newborn sets that were constantly going in and out to different parents, and so we really built it up. And it was sad when COVID came along, because we did that for about a year, and then COVID came along and just killed a lot of that, particularly because you know people were so nervous about having anything in their home that had been in someone else's, and
the whole touching situation.
Yeah, so it was a really difficult.
Up until that point, obviously you mentioned the Airbnb and how you project manage the whole thing, but before that, had you done anything remotely close
to project managing?
Yeah, or even like taking something that looked dead with £30 in the account and then grew it into...
So I'm a mechanical engineer, but I work for a consultancy and I did quite a lot of project management. So my job was basically to run projects. So to take a little tiny nub of an idea and then work with engineers to try and turn that into something that you could, it can't be dissimilar to the environment you work in. So you come up with an idea and then you're trying to get that out. And we would have, clients would come and they had a problem. We would come up with a design for a product that would solve that. We would I lived in China for a while. So my husband and I, he was the project manager on that one. I was the lead engineer, and we ended up going and living in Shenzhen in China in a hotel for on and off for about a year, developing something called the paint pod, which was a painting system where you took your paint pot and put it into our paint pod, which was kind of like a big bucket with a lid, and it would automatically pump the paint to the roller, so you could just paint the walls without having to keep going back to the roller tray.
Do you have pictures of that, or?
Yeah, probably somewhere.
I'll put them up afterwards.
So Dulux paint pod. It's very old now. I'm very old. But it had kind of a shield on the back of it so it didn't spit on you. And then when you were finished, and this was my innovation, the best, the bit that we came up with that I think was the best part was that you could fill a bucket full of water, put it in, clip your dirty paint roller into the system and press go, and it would automatically clean it all. And then you just had to pour away painty water at the end, 5 litres. So it used less water, and you were set and you could just leave it till next time.
You don't have to clean it yourself.
Yeah. So it's a self-cleaning roller system. But we ended up living in China and having a great time. We'd take the bus to Hong Kong and have our weekends. We used to get the bus to Lantau Island, and then which is where the airport is. So there used to be from Shenzhen to Lantau to the airport bus. There was it used to go from the factory gate and take a couple of hours, and then we would get off and take the local bus over the island, and you would jump off in the middle of nowhere in the dark, halfway, because there's a kind of a set of peaks that run through Lantau Island, and if the bus dropped you off, we would walk up and then wild camp up on the mountains up at the top and wake up with a view of Hong Kong Island, and then get the MTR into town and go and get a swanky hotel for the next night.
That's cool. Before we go back to the Nappy Library, looking at, because you mentioned China, you've got 2 different cultures. How for myself, how have you found the culture in China compared to Britain?
so mad in many ways. It was difficult being a girl in that. I would say more so difficult being a woman in that culture. So when I used to go over with John, who's now my husband, we would be put into a 5-star hotel, and we would have fabulous rooms, and we would be picked up in a car every morning and taken to the factory to do our work. And when I went alone without John, I used to stay in the dormitories out the back of the factory, because I don't know whether it was because I was more junior, I'm only a few years younger, or because I was a girl, but I was in like I used to have we were in a 4-bed bunk room and shared the shower with all the dorms downstairs, which the difference between was unbelievable. So that was a bit strange. The culture out there.
Is there anything that impressed you that, I guess a better question for me is there anything you would take from the Chinese culture that you bring to Britain?
That's a really complex question. So we were quite isolated from most of the Chinese culture, I would say. So when we stayed in the hotel, there was a brothel that used to run out of the basement. So the only people that were my sort of age were the girls that worked there. So when we were there, we would go down to the bar and I would drink with the girls who worked in the brothel, and we would play dice games. There was a dice game that we used to play together.
Sorry to ask, is that called by any chance Liar's Dice or Perudo?
Yes, we used to play on the bar. We used to play lie dice.
Oh my god, I love that game. Sorry, I continue.
Yeah. And then they'd have to go and dance on the table. It was the strangest, it was the weirdest situation. And there would be whole families coming down and watching like the family show, and there would be like balconies with 18-year-olds and businessmen and girls dancing on the bar. I found that was just like... But when I spoke to those girls, they were like, no, we love this. It's almost felt like, well, they didn't love it at all, but they loved the opportunity of being able to leave home, earn money, live together. It was weird. It was a weird thing. And they were brilliant, the girls that I met there. They were the people that I could sort of relate to, because they were my sort of age. Other than that, we were working in a factory, and we were very much... so the owner of the factory has a yacht in the Hong Kong Yacht Club that we would be taken out on at weekends. So we sort of... the 2 levels of Chinese culture that we were exposed to were either the factory dormitories with the girls, or downstairs in the brothel, which were people who felt like my sort of age and level, because I'd have been 25 then. And then on the other side, I was being taken out to 5-star hotels with Chinese businessmen. It was so I don't know how much of real Chinese culture we saw. It felt like Shenzhen is a really fast growing area for industry, and it felt like there was just this huge divide in the culture between the people at the top and the workers. It just felt enormous, and we were sort of part of both of it, which was great, because I really, we got to see both sides. But I think some of the things that I thought were really cool about China is things like they just ban stuff. Like, I don't know if it's cool, I just think it's interesting. So they were like, right, moped deaths are really high, so we're just going to ban them. It doesn't matter if you had any other form of transport or were reliant on your moped or anything else. That wasn't part of the thought process. It wasn't like a democracy where they're like, all right, well, we'll transition gently, and maybe we'll provide a replacement, or we'll do a scheme for this. It was just like, done. Which is really difficult for the people on the ground, but really quick. It meant that things happen. Like, if they wanted to stop, climate change by they can just, it doesn't matter. They're like, we're going to ban cars, boom, and that would happen. So it's kind of a scary environment, and also it's just, it's so fast paced that it felt like things would happen. Like, just, it could happen overnight, which was...
Do you like that? Things happening fast?
So we've also travelled in India quite a lot. So my husband and I took a year out and drove. We've got a big Land Rover Defender. We drove overland to Australia. So we travelled all through Tibet. So we travelled through China as well as tourists. And I probably found it the most scary country to travel in for the same reasons that I found it exciting to work in that, you know, they could make changes happen really quickly, but at the same time you got the impression that they could also make you disappear. You know, they had such complete autonomy over everything. I remember being really ill and standing at a border. It's called the Toragat Pass. It's the highest border, I think, in the world. And it goes from Kyrgyzstan into China, into the Uyghur province, where you hear awful things about now. They're just basically wiping out the whole Uyghur culture. But we were at this pass, and I remember being there, and they were like, you have to take the seats out of your car to put them through this like washing thing that sprays them, and there was no one there. You've got to picture a mountainside, sort of 6 p.m. at night. It's getting dark. There isn't a soul up there. You're at 3,500 meters altitude. It's -5 during the day, -20 at night. There is nothing. There isn't even a road, and he's saying you have to dismantle this whole. You know, you have to dismantle your car. And we were like, really? And he was like, I am China government. And you were like, this man has the power. Like, there's 2 other men with guns. We have to take the chairs out of our car. I have no power. Whereas in India, we travelled into India. If someone said you have to take them out, you're like, I want to see the boss. I want to talk about this. And it wouldn't happen. So the difference is...
Was there a reason why they wanted you to take the chairs out?
Oh, they wanted to wash them. They did actually relent in the end because I was very ill and I vomited.
Oh,
and I think they were like, actually, they can go. But it's a really interesting, like, they're two developing and very fast moving cultures, but one is a democracy in India where, you know, if they couldn't ban a motorbike, it couldn't happen. It just couldn't happen. It just would never happen. Yeah. Whereas in China, there's such complete control that it can happen overnight. So it's so I found individual Chinese people, like, made some good friends, and I really enjoyed their company. But I found that the whole country on the whole makes me a little bit uneasy to be out there.
That's fair enough. But going back to the nappy business and how you started that, I guess I was interested in the culture in China, and obviously one thing you mentioned is the fact that they can make a decision and they could implement it quite fast.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got the background with project management. Is that how it seems to me that you like to operate in the sort of space where you take a project and you build up?
Yeah.
And is this yeah?
I'm not a very good completer finisher.
Okay.
But I love getting a little bit of an idea and then taking it to proof of concept. And then my husband's actually much better at taking it a bit further. So he kind of like, come on, Ruth, you've got to actually make it so that it's, you know. So I would say I'm one of those people that I like to be doing all the time, and I'm quite practical, and I'm very good at delegating. So I'm quite good with that sort of thing. I was like, right, we need money. I need grants. I actually didn't do the grant application. I found a volunteer to do it, Bobby, turned up, and I was like, do you want to do half the nappies? Because actually it's quite a lot. So she took on the newborn. So I always think, actually, I don't do very much of the work. I tend to just...
How do you find people to help you? Because obviously you found Bobby, I guess, friends.
I talk to everybody.
Okay.
And I don't know. I've got someone who's doing the quiz for my PTA, and she got to the end of a conversation. I was like, you came to the quiz last year? And she was like, yeah. I was like, didn't you do some of the questions? She was like, yeah, I did. I was like, oh, it was really good, and you know, it was really fun, and etc. And by the time we left, she was like, I'll do the quiz for you. And I didn't ask her. I didn't even suggest it. And she was like, how did you do that? And I was like, I don't do what? So I'd like to think I I don't know. Bobby offered. I think I just explained that I was needing of a person and left it at that, and you just sort of...
How do you... Because I guess, for example, myself, I like to pick up things and start working on them, but sometimes I do find myself being in a position where I can't finish it.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Because you've done something, you've done the Nappy Library.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about the Slug Rings yet, but...
Yeah. That's still going, that's
Yeah.
fine. Normally I get myself into a situation where there is no option, but that is my livelihood now. Or I've put so much investment in that then I'm like, right, I'm going to have to make this work. And that's just, it just feels like at that point you've got a duty to make it as best as you possibly can.
How was that with the Nappy Library? Because how did you put yourself in that situation? Because from what I'm understanding so far is that you had a kid, you had just had a kid.
Yeah.
And...
Third one. Yeah.
So you're already kind of busy with the newly born and the two on the side.
Yeah.
How did you get yourself in a position where...
Because I wasn't mentally challenged by that.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't providing... I like to be in charge of something. I like a project. So even when I didn't have a work project, I would just end up like, I don't know, redecorating or refurbishing furniture, or I don't know, rebuilding part of the garden, or helping, just finding a project. And ideally, I quite like to be the one in charge because I think I'm just quite bossy. So having my own projects, I do work on other people's quite happily, but I like to have my own project for the sense of personal satisfaction, to feel like I'm doing something, giving something back, or achieving something, or just for a sense of... It's quite difficult to go from... I was a consultant, and I had projects running, probably millions of pounds worth of other people's money, and directing teams of engineers, and things happen, and it's quite fast-paced and exciting. And then when you have a child, it slows down. It's all-consuming. It's busy. It's not an easy job at all, but it's not mentally challenging. It's physically exhausting. You're not sleeping, and and you're constantly having to learn new things and how to manage different situations and worry and things. But it doesn't have the same sort of mental stimulation. And also your identity. I think the first time I had to write down stay-at-home mum instead of, project manager, and people do look at you differently and do treat you a bit differently if they're like, oh, you're just a mum. You're like, just, actually. And I think there's a lot of women feel the same way. And my husband now, who's just left his job as an engineer, and he's like, it's quite difficult to work out, well, what am I now? Do I call myself an engineer? Because that's what I was. It's not what I'm doing now. Now I just am at home with kids all the time. So it gives you that sense of identity back. It gives you something that you're like, what am I? I was like, right, I am someone who's done this. It's these little strands that sort of make you who you are. And...
Can you help me out? Because I think I need to learn how to put myself in that situation where there's no other option but to do that. And I think, for example, with the podcast, I would like to... I'm already spending some time on it, and I'm just wondering, how can I best...
So I would say get other people involved, because they rely on you then. Because if you have, a partnership is always easier, because when you're like, oh, I can't be bothered to do anything with it this week, they're like, are you getting on with that? And then that sort of pulls you forward a little bit. So much as I say I just outsource jobs and get Bobby to do half of it, actually Bobby then was the one that got me, pushed me to make it a bit better. And she's like, oh, I've done this for this section of it, and you're like, oh, I better do that for the my bit now as well, make that a bit better. So I think we sort of push each other up. So that's one thing, is just making yourself accountable to someone, even if they're not involved. Just telling someone. So I find it's really a really powerful thing just to tell someone that you're going to do something. So we've done it before. We're like, I'm going to take the kids out of school and go travelling, and just tell everyone that you're going to do it. And then they're like, so when are you taking the kids out of school to go travelling? You're like, oh shit, I better actually do that now. And it just makes it happen. So tell people, what is your aim? What is your dream for the podcast? And tell everyone you're going to do it. I'd say that's because it makes you accountable. And then next time you see them, you're like, oh, your podcast, have you managed to get that yet? And you'll be like, yeah, actually, I better do a bit more of that because that's what I want. You're right, that is what I want. So I'd say accountability here. But telling everyone you know is a really good way of doing that.
That's interesting. Actually, yeah, I've told some people, and funny enough, I've managed to get some help from. I used to go to University of Bath.
Yeah.
And I've still got some contacts there. And over the summer, I reached out to someone who's in charge of the placement, of the placements for the marketing students.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, well, this is very much marketing related, right?
Yeah.
So I reached out to the marketing placement officer, and she put me in touch with the whole cohort.
Can you send me her email because I need some of those marketing placement students?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll give it a email. Yeah.
Yeah, and
she put me in touch with. She sent an email on my behalf to the second year cohort.
Yeah.
And some people replied. It was 5 in total. Out of the 5, I'm now working with 3. One of them, Natasha, she's really nice. She's helping me on the thumbnails.
Yeah.
And I haven't thought about it until now. You say it out loud, that I know I'm gonna meet with Natasha every 2 weeks or something like that, and I know I have to work on thumbnails as well. Yeah, you're actually right. Yeah,
you
makes
need accountability.
Yeah.
And someone that you. So John has finished work, and this week, so Slug Rings has felt we're both like, oh, actually having someone else coming on board has made me really work on it more than I have done in quite a few years. It's really made me go, oh, actually no, the website's looking a bit. You're right, it doesn't look as good as it could. Right, So I've had a photographer in this morning. We've got another project and another business we're setting up. We had a graphic designer in yesterday, and those people I'm now accountable to. So I now have deadlines with them, and they're like, could you send me the breakdown of this, that and the other? And like, oh, I better actually do that now. And then I was like, oh, and I better do the new copy for the website, because if he's done me some beautiful photos, I need to go through and work out where I'm going to put them and what. So it just, accountability.
And another thing you said, which I was quite interested in, is you said you like to pick up projects and start working on them, but you're not so good at finishing them.
Have you ever done, I think, is it Myers-Briggs? There's like
my God, yes, yeah.
And we went, I remember doing it as a company when I was in my early 20s, and we went off and did the Myers-Briggs thing. And I was the only person he said he'd had in a long time that had managed to score 0 on completer finisher. I was just like, oh, sorry. I'm just not, I'm not a fine detail kind of, I think I've got better with age and necessity, but I am a bit crap at sort of, I'll make stuff happen, but I can't guarantee it's going to be exactly the right stuff. So, which is why my husband is absolutely fantastic, because he is a good team. Because I'll be like, right, we need to replace the front door. Twisty Meckers is that thing, it's broken. So I'm just going to order another one. He's like, well, have you measured it? I'm like, yeah, it's that big. And he's like, have you measured like this dimension? I was like, no. He's like, or that one? No. But I've ordered one, and I was like, well, it's not going to fit the door, is it? And you're like, okay. But he will then go and measure it. I will order it, and it will happen. And he would never have ordered it. He would never have got round to doing it. I would order the wrong one and have to send it back 5 times, because I probably wouldn't even measure it second time, because I'm just like, I'll be all right, I'll try that one instead. Whereas he is, I'm just not. There's a level of, yeah. He used to go out every day with the builders. They'd be in a building all day, and he would have to go out and measure it all. And then he'd write me a list. He's like, Ruth, they've done this bit wrong, this bit wrong, this bit wrong. I was like, okay. I really must notice this when it's happening. I must be more on it. But at the same time, he gets bogged down with tiny details and just doesn't do anything. He just ends up, he focuses on one small thing and doesn't actually progress. So we work quite well as a team, I hope, touch wood, as we've now completely committed and are basing our entire livelihoods on this.
So tell me about Slug Rings. So is that why your husband left his job the other week?
Partially, yeah. We've thought about it, you know, it's always been the end dream is that we could both work from home, fit our lives around the kids more so that we can spend more time with them. We can have more holiday time. We can have more weekend time. He doesn't have to commute and we get the power to choose what we're doing. So when we were working at the consultancy, there were a lot of projects that would come along that you didn't believe in, or you were ending up making, I don't know, more plastic for the world that you just thought, they don't need that. My heart isn't just not in it. I'm actively feeling a little bit bad about doing this. So the lovely thing about Slug Rings, when we bought it, so Slug Rings, to explain, is a solid copper ring you put around a plant. And slugs and snails hate copper for a variety of reasons. So they won't pass over copper. And so it will just stop the slugs and snails getting to your plant so they can't eat it. So if you grow seedlings and you put them out and you have a wet evening, you will go out the next morning and they'll just have been munched to the ground because they love the little tender seedlings. So we put them in copper and that's and it protects them until they're big enough to protect themselves, and then you can take it off and put it on something else if you want. So and they last forever. They never wear out. They're not bad for the environment. We have no plastic packaging. It's something, we were already gardeners, so we knew it was a problem and we didn't want to use pesticides which kill off things. We've got small children, so you don't want to put out the little blue pellets, putting them in the mud kitchen. You're like, no, that's poison. So it was something, I think it's one of the first times we were both like, oh, this is something I actually believe in and can be quite excited about, and it's ours. And so that's one of the reasons we wanted to grow it. It's like, it's the first time I've had something I'm like, I honestly believe in this. And obviously my neighbour had passed away, and it was, his wife she'd never manufactured them. She didn't know how aspects of the business worked. They'd sort of divided their work. So she, I think she was a little bit lost as to, she was in her early 70s. She didn't really want to carry it on anymore. So, and I was in my 30s and was quite excited and like, I can make this work.
So it's a copper ring that you put around the plant. Yeah. And you don't have snails and things destroying your plant. Okay, that's quite interesting. How did you know? Obviously, you did say you love gardening and you already had, but how did you know there was an appetite for that? Because obviously you know more about gardening than me. But...
So slugs and snails are the bane of every gardener's life. It is a massive problem. And we'd actually tried some. Our neighbour, he used to make them in the shed out the back, and it was he sold more than I thought he did actually. I thought when I agreed to buy the company it was going to be quite a small cottage industry, and when I actually realised, I was like, oh, he's got contracts with wholesalers in Europe. That's bigger than I expected for making it out of what was literally a potting shed. So it ended up being a little bit bigger. It was a surprise. We had to remortgage to buy it. I was not expecting that. But by that point I was like, I kind of feel we've committed now. My head is in it. Let's go. So we knew that they would be a market for them, and my neighbours had been running the business and were making money. So we knew that there was at least that much business for it. And then COVID came along and we were stuck at home and everyone was doing a lot more gardening. And I rewrote the website and made it a bit easier to understand. It was just hard code. So we couldn't even adjust it to say it's still operating during COVID. I could do nothing because I'm not a software. Couldn't do anything. So we just had to start from scratch. And he'd written the back end as well, and he'd written it all in code. So again, I could just about operate it, but I couldn't change anything. So we just had to redesign the whole thing. We just changed it all, and I changed it all, and I had to get all of that set up, and accountancy, which I'd never done accounts for anyone, didn't know how that worked. So all of those sorts of things. So we knew there would be a market for it. I don't think we knew that it was going to grow as much as it has. But we did. I ended up going. Social media was, I think, the key to getting it more known by everyone else, and now I've stopped that because I don't really like it. And now it's
You don't really like social media.
I find that I just get too hooked into it, and then I have got a lot of things going on, and I can't have something that sucks that much time out of my life.
But you're seeing, I think you said you were seeing progress with it.
Yeah. Oh, it did. Initially, it was massive for us from a marketing perspective. It was really good. But then actually it was slowing down. And I think one summer we stopped entirely, and I was like, oh, sales are still going up, and I'm not having to spend 2 or 3 hours a day, largely at like tea time when I'm trying to like have some kind of social contact with my kids. That's when there's the best time to post and have to reply to messages, and I didn't want to be doing it then. So I was like, actually, it's not adding the value that it was initially. And so we just sacked it off completely, and it seems to be going. It seems to be doing okay. I probably there's a constant guilt that I should be doing more of it, but actually, the less time I spend on social media, the less guilty I feel about not. I was like, actually, I can do it my way, and it's fine. Social media, I find quite quite difficult.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, the podcast itself, right? It's like literally all social media.
Yeah.
It's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was big on Instagram. That was my kind of social media of choice. But I just found that, and I constantly felt that my company wasn't as good as someone else's, or my garden wasn't as good as someone else's. And my social media account wasn't as good as somebody else's, and I needed to do more and constantly be working on it. Whereas when you step away from that, I'm like, no, I've got a lovely little business actually, and it's doing fine, and you do yours.
Yeah, I think you don't have to feel bad about it actually, because I think I'm looking at myself with the podcast. I think I believe that I should do a lot of posts.
Yeah.
And I'm currently doing that, don't get me wrong. But I have read a very interesting book. It just so happens I don't remember the name right now. I'm really trying to remember. But it was a book that was talking about, I believe, 19 ways you can approach marketing. And the book itself was talking about how you should spend as much time as you're spending on the service or product, as much time you should be spending on, just as much time you should be spending on marketing. But the difference was, the whole book was about, there's 19 ways you can approach marketing. One of them is obviously social media and Instagram.
Yeah.
But usually it's one of those 19 which you always think, that's not for me, that actually turns out to be the biggest thing that could grow the business.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because we're going to meet again.
Yeah.
And I'll give it to you because I think that could be quite interesting. Because I don't think you have to feel bad for not doing social media. There's so many other things you could do for it.
I think
that might work for you better than social media.
I do other advertising.
Exactly.
We use Google advertising and things like that, and that I think is working fine. And a lot of it is word of mouth and good customer service. So when people are like, people, oh, you've sent me 2. That happens more often than you'd imagine in the summer when it's really busy. I very rarely don't send one, but I do occasionally send 2. And our standard response is, oh, lucky you. Give one to some friends, and we always just give some out, and I do give them out as gifts, and I think just that on its own does seem to sort of have built a bit of a nice reputation. So.
You know what you should say? I think next time you should say, we hope you like the surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprise, there's a 3rd one on the way. I really must remember to file your invoice. Stop posting it out every week.
That's funny. So when you took the business, when you bought it, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
How much? Because you had to take a mortgage for it.
Yeah.
How much did you?
It's,
Was the business?
It was about 23,000. So it was I thought it was going to be. To be honest, I'd never bought a business. I haven't got a clue how much a business is worth.
You had
I
built
don't
one
know
before.
now. I still don't know how much the business is worth. I'd have to go and find someone now to tell me how much it's worth now. But it's not the kind of thing that you really know, is it? It's like, how do you quantify it? And so when my neighbour was like, well, you could buy Slug Rings, I was like, yeah, I could buy Slug Rings. That'd be fun. I'm like, what would that be? Yeah, let's buy it. And then I was like, she came up with some values, and I was like, oh, is that how much a business? Oh, maybe that is how much a business is worth. And checked with a few people. Largely, I think I just Googled how much, and it was like you just take the turnover and times it by some number, and I was like, oh, seems about right. So we didn't know, and I don't think she knew. We were all just kind of. It was a little bit of a
eyeball.
And I subsequently got an accountant. He was like, that is not normally how it's done. I was like, oh. We literally just signed a form that handed over the shares, and I sent her a cheque, and we went round and picked up stuff. And even a couple of weeks ago, she was like, oh, I found another bit of equipment. I was like, oh, great, lovely, I'll have that then. So I don't think it was a traditional business takeover.
It's a fun way of doing it, right? Like, yeah, it's so much easier sometimes, right? If you do it like this.
I know. I don't think we've ever done anything that's like we're just setting up a new business now, and people are like, "Oh, you're launching a business," and I'm like, "You say launching a business like this is something that I don't know." And I was talking to the accountant. He was like, "Oh, you could set it up so that you've got like I can't even remember the terms now. He's like, you can have some kind of dormant business, and then you could have some other one that's in charge of it all." And I'm like, "Oh, these are words I've heard, but." I didn't think I'd ever be the kind of person that would have a dormant company. But actually when it comes along, you're like, oh, these feel like big terms, but they're like, I need to do a product launch. Actually, I think when that comes around, it's just going to be me pressing go on Google Ads and switching on the website. It's like,
launch.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Launched. So all these things sound so alien and so big and so scary, and then when you do them, it is just like having a cup of tea with your neighbour and going, well, I think we've got everything done on the government check web list. We haven't, we've missed one. And that's how we sold a company and bought a company. So
that is crazy. Is there when did you say how long have you been operating this Slug Rings?
6 years in a few weeks. So,
and obviously you had some experience with gardening, but how did you approach? I'm just curious because how did you approach everything once you had it?
No one knew how to make them because my neighbour who'd passed away had made them all. So we had to sort of reverse engineer. We knew what the product looked like, and we had the bits of machinery. So we were like, poke bits in and see what comes out, and like, oh look, we've made it this stage, and so that we just played until we worked it out, and then the rest of it, I still feel like I'm a little bit just fudging it. He had accounts, but I just couldn't work them, and he had an accountant, but I was like, well, that's not quite working. So I literally just, I think, went on Google and searched Bath accountants, got an accountant, and the accountant was like, oh, you need to get this software. And I was like, oh, okay. So I bought Xero, and then I went on some YouTube tutorials and worked out how to set it up. And that was kind of how that happened. And the same with the website. He'd had a back end called Roman Cart that was like running his website. And actually, when I phoned up Roman Cart, he was like, oh no, that's really old. We run a whole, we host websites. This is how we would do it now. I'm like, oh, so do you want to do that? I'm like, yeah, sounds like a good plan. All right. So I just paid. And even now, we've just hired a photographer. I literally just searched photographers, looked at a few websites. I'm like, that one looks all right. I'll phone him. He seemed nice. That's my photographer. So I just feel like we're not very professional at any stage, but it kind of happens and it seems to be working. So.
You know what I like about you, I think? I really like the fact that any sort of situation you've faced so far, you have just looked at it and went on Google or like you tried to approach it and you were like, yeah, I can do it, and then you like find a solution and you try it.
I think there's this imposter syndrome that people talk about where they're just like, oh, but I think that is everybody. Everyone must sit in their job, and as you get older one day you realise that even like the people in charge of the country, they're no different. He's probably Googling stuff. Like, you've got some image in your mind that these people are on another plane, and they're not. They're just going, oh shit, I never thought I'd be Prime Minister. Right, I'm going to have to Google something. I'm going to have to phone someone. I'm going to have to, no one knows. If you've never done it before, it's not like there's a handover either with Prime Ministers, because they generally don't get on when you've switched. So there's all of these things. I think you just end up having to just sort of, right, well, I'll just give it a go and see. And largely it works out okay. I'm hopeful. We've just put all of our eggs in one basket and John's left his job, so I'm hoping it goes okay. But
I mean, you've done it for 6 years now, and it seems you're getting more help and more accountability.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not worried about Slug Rings, actually. That one is sort of pootling. That's going quite well now. We've had another brilliant idea, fantastic product idea that we're now investing in that might just fall completely flat, but you'll never know if you don't give it a go.
You want to talk about it?
I can't really. So
Okay.
I was chatting to someone this morning, but we've got, it's very exciting, and I think it's another niche product that we can make work. But currently we don't have any IP on it, so we're speaking to a lawyer next week. And until it's kind of in the public domain that we've come up with the idea, I can't really talk about it.
No, that's really understandable. Get the IP, do it properly, and then...
But that's quite exciting. And speaking to people, we spoke to the graphic designer, and he was like, oh no, I'm actually really excited for you. I think this is really good. And you're like, is it? Is it? Because I really hope it is, and I think it is, but I'm a bit like, oh.
Yeah, it's always that sort of feeling that you have when the people actually like this.
Yeah, is this? And the one thing that I've discovered is that marketing is everything. Like, it doesn't matter how good everything is if no one knows about it. So, and I'm not great at marketing, so that's why, if you've got numbers for any students that want to come along.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely send you that, and I'll get you that book, because I think you'll like the book. I think you'll find it interesting. I hope. I did. Yeah,
no, I think I just need to embrace marketing again. I think social media put me off a little bit, and I need to be a bit
it's
more...
not all social media. It's not like you're using the Google ads, right?
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Might be underrated, but you know what? Banners, radio, newspaper, they're all sort of marketing.
So that is how it was originally marketed. And I'm hoping, because we're having this photography done, so I'm going to have some really nice photographs. I was like, right, I'm a bit more confident that I can send those off and they look decent. Up until now, all of the product photography on our website has been taken on my mobile phone. And just completely that looks about right. So it's really nice that I feel like we're taking the next step now. We're becoming professional. We will get slicker with time and practice, and
it's very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm just curious for myself. Obviously, I've got a podcast.
Yeah.
But sometimes,
where do you want the podcast to go?
Where
is it going? What is your dream?
I'll tell you. So my whole idea of it is, I'm seeing all these big podcasts, and they are all focusing on. They're not focusing on the guests they have on. They're very much people who are billionaires, CEOs, business people, everyone who appears on TV as well, which is great. They've got interesting things to say, but you've literally said so many interesting things, right? And
very interesting.
And so does everyone else, to be honest, because we all have different experiences, and those experiences give us those things that we now use every single day.
Yeah.
Right? So my hope with it is that I get to just sit down with people like you, have conversations, and I hope that people listen to some of these conversations, not necessarily the podcast. The podcast is just a means to an end. If you watch 30-second clip of the back of it that you find interesting, that helps you, perfect.
So it's like that, people don't go out as much, and the youth of today don't go to the pub as much, because we used to there was always that man that you'd meet in the pub who was there'd always be a man in the pub, or a woman, some random person in the pub, and you'd get chatting and you'd see them and you'd be like, oh, I'm probably a drunk. And then you'd get chatting and you're like, oh, you have just rocked my world with that slight insight. So this is your man in the pub.
Yeah, exactly.
Stranger in the pub.
Maybe that
for the modern age.
Maybe I should rename it that, man in the pub.
Yeah, it's the man in the pub.
So my hope is that someone can look at one of the videos and find it useful and hopefully recommend it to others, you know.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I was interested because assumption, but equally you've kind of validated it just now. You tend to start a business, or you tend to acquire a business. So you start to have a side project, the Nappy Library. Then you do that for a number of years, or maybe a couple of months, and then something else comes along.
Yeah.
And then you do that as well, and then the next thing you know, you're trying to acquire an IP or an idea that could really take off. So how
do you manage your portfolio?
Not necessarily. I don't wanna work for a company my whole life.
Yeah.
I work in software, and honestly, I don't like it as much as someone who's actually enjoying computer science. And I really hope that's why I'm doing projects like this, because they teach me some other things, and it's really interesting. But like, how do I do that? How do
you get there?
How do I get there?
Quite a lot of years, unfortunately, I think, probably. But I think just keep trying things. Don't just be bold with. Don't think, oh, I don't know enough about that, or that's a bit scary. Just so we just say yes. So, like, we drove across the world to Australia, and that was based on I said, one day I'm going to drive to Australia and tell a lot of people. Just tell people your dream. And that, I really think that helps, because you put it into words and you tell someone, and then it stops being like this kind of crazy idea you've had because someone will say, well, which route are you going to take? And you're like, I don't know, actually, I better look on a map. Maybe that route looks nice. And then you tell people that route and you're like, yeah, and that's the route we're going to take. And then it sort of starts to become, it solidifies. So you just have to keep adding detail to your dream, and it sort of solidifies to the point where one day you're like, actually, should we just do it? And should we just buy a Land Rover? Like, I think one of our little projects was, well, which car would we choose? You know, which route would we take? What would we do? How would we work it? Would we leave our flat? And all these little ideas really slowly just start to solidify. And then one day we're like, I think we could buy that car, and I think maybe we could ask work for it. Like, and then, like, we left. We didn't know if we'd come back or when we would come back. We had an open-ended sabbatical, and we gave up our flat and we got a container, and we just we told enough people we were going to do it, and eventually it just sort of happened. And similarly with Slug Rings, she was like, oh, you should buy it. And I was like, yeah, I should buy it. I went home to my husband and I was like, I think we should buy it. And then I phoned my mum and I was like, I think I'm going to buy a business, Mum. And then by the time I'd got that far, I was like, I kind of feel like it was more than we thought. But I was like, I kind of feel we've committed. And then you make it happen. And those are the kind of... So I'd say, tell people and dream around your thing. Like, visualise. Do you want to be running a podcast? Is your dream where do you want to be living? What lifestyle do you want to be like? My little brother currently lives in a camper van, and he's like, oh, one day I'll get a proper job. And I was like, I don't think that's his dream. I think he's living his dream right now, and that he should just accept that. So you just sort of visualise that dream and add little bits to it and talk about it and tell people, and it sort of solidifies.
It makes a lot of sense. I think all the books I've read so far, all the podcasts I've listened to, everyone is saying the same thing.
Is it?
Yeah, I think.
Because I haven't read them, so am I getting it right?
No, I think you are. I think the accountability helps.
Yeah.
And I think just what you just said right now, with like going out and like do it.
Just getting on with it.
Yeah, I think my.
But you're doing it.
I'm doing it. I'm very happy.
And you found a marketing student, so you've got a little step towards accountability, and then you've just got to picture where you want it to go next. Just be bold, and say, oh, I'm gonna get on BBC Sounds. That's my next That's what I want to happen. And then you'll go home and you're like, how do you get on BBC Sounds? Is there a process? And you'll find that there's an email, and you'll go home and you'll go, oh, do you know what? I might just email them and find out what the process is. And you'll do it, and you'll be like, oh, actually, I just have to send them 3 podcasts. Oh, well, I've got that. And then before you know it, you're like, holy shit, I'm actually on BBC Sounds. What do I do now? I better up my game. I'm going to need another marketing person. And then that's it. You've done it. But it happens in such tiny incremental steps. I don't think you notice it happening. And then eventually you're like, but you're never where you want to be. You've never reached that end, because there's always like, oh, actually what I want next is, so I just give it a go. Just be bold and Google it. It's amazing what you find on the internet. YouTube, Google, all sorts. I was like, I want to sell in the National Trust. Went on there and I was like, turns out there's an email. You just send it to them. So I sold in the National Trust for a bit, and I was like, actually, I don't want to do that anymore. But these things they're never as big and as scary as you think.
You know what? Thank you for that, because I might just do that this weekend. I might just try to have some big ideas with it and see what's the process of doing them.
Yeah. Who is it that you want? Who do you want? You don't need... You've got what you need. You've got the people. You just need the audience. So just aim bigger. Even start with the uni. Does the uni have a radio? Would they put your podcast on? You just got to think, like, who can I send it to? Who would be interested? And just do it.
Thank you. I know you've probably said all of this a number of times now, but as we're wrapping up, if when I post one of those 30-second long videos on TikTok, for example, that is meant to give value to others.
Yeah.
If we look at the conversation we've had so far, what would you say that is?
That's a tricky one. I would just say that tell people. That would be mine. If you've got a dream, tell everyone. Don't keep it inside. Tell people, because then that is your accountability. That's my advice.
Thank you. And you know what? That's going to be the title of the episode. If you've got a dream, tell people. Yeah.
The more people you tell, the more you just feel that's the duty. You know, you said, why do you carry something on to the end? Why am I a completer finisher now? Well, it's because I've told so many people. It'll be a little bit embarrassing if I don't do it. That is it. I've learned you just have to tell people, and then it will happen.
Ruth, thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
have so enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
I walked in not knowing really how it was gonna unfold, and it's been incredible. You seem like an incredible person.
Oh, well, you seem like you're gonna go great places. So I look forward to hearing your podcast.
Thank you. And as we're wrapping up, I've got something for you.
Ooh.
It's my favorite chocolate bar. That's why I asked you earlier.
That is the best kind of gift.
You're welcome. So, just to tell you a bit of history behind it.
Yeah.
You know, when you were a kid,
Yeah.
and you might have had chocolate bars. Yeah. And for me, the story goes like this. I had some, and it was always like, I was always feeling that every chocolate bar I had was not having enough chocolate in it.
Yeah.
So at some point in high school, one of my friends, she came up to me and she introduced me to it, and I was like, okay, let me try it. And this chocolate bar is the only chocolate bar I have found that has got so much chocolate in it, that you'll be so happy.
Okay.
I hope you like it.
I do. I love chocolate. I'm dark chocolate.
Yeah.
I'm very happy.
Oh, I'm glad. Well, thank you so much, Ruth.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.